Hello and welcome to Team PokeMart, your one-stop shop for the things that you need to stop and or shop for. And today I've been spending most of my time avoiding my mundane work existence, and instead I've been playing with this delightful Growlithe. Growlithe. Can you think of any of a gooder of a boy? Much like my own doggo, they love to play fetch, and I give my dog a stick to fetch myself, and oh, what's this? Growlithe has fetched for you, valued customer, a subscribe button to Team PokeMart, and it will continue to relentlessly fetch it until you press it, which will keep you up to date on all of our latest stock and unbeatable bargains. Good boy, Growlithe. Good boy. But as you may have guessed, today we are going to be focusing on some good old puppos, because we have recently acquired some wonderful companion Growlithe today here at the store, and they're ready to be your friend for life when you take one home with you. After supplying me with an appropriate amount of money, of course. But friend for life, eh? That sounds like a pretty big commitment. Not to worry though. We're here for you, trainer, as you train her, or him. More than likely going to be him, seeing as Growlithe are significantly more likely to be male. But that doesn't stop them from being amazing companions nonetheless. At least, not usually. Growlithe is known as the puppy Pokemon, a pure fire type, and is seen standing, walking, and running on all fours like the clever little boy he is. Its body is a vibrant orange color that complements nicely with the black stripes along its legs and back, giving him a very racer sort of vibe. Because remember, red makes things go faster. Its tail, undercarriage, and muzzle are all this kind of beige color, and it also has beige paw pads to match. Meanwhile, its coat on its chest and its tail is frizzier and longer than the orange coat, giving Growlithe some much needed floof. Growlithe's English and Japanese names are a bit ambiguous, as Growlithe may be a combination of growl, this sort of guttural noise used in alert or warning, such as the following, Grrrr, as well as Lith, meaning agile or limber. So you can think of this creature as gutturally agile. Meanwhile, the Japanese Guardier is seen as a corruption that potentially speaks to its abilities as a guard dog or guardian, which ties quite nicely into the potential origin of this furry fire lad. Growlithe is very likely based on a Japanese Shisa, which is basically what happens when you take a lion and a dog, you smush them together, cover them in a bit of stone, and then give them a derpy expression, and then bam, Shisa. But these statues act as guardians and are often seen in pairs, believed to invite good luck and potentially inspired Growlithe's innate protective nature. Friendly and loyal, determined and fearless. This perfect canine will defend its trainer to the last hit point. Larger and stronger enemies do not faze it in the slightest, and in fact, the larger the enemy, the louder the Growlithe will balk, and the mightier it will bite. Whether or not that bite does anything is a completely different matter, but hey, at least Growlithe tries. Unlike that sand-spewing coward Pidgey. Trainers often praise Growlithe's obedience, as the Pokemon is seen remaining motionless until given an order. It's almost militaristic actually. If you tell Growlithe to sit, then it will sit. And if you tell it to march, then oh, good boy marches. But most importantly, if you order Growlithe to act cute in order to impress the ladies, then he performs that role flawlessly. Unfortunately, then I go to open my mouth and I say something dumb like, happy birthday, instead of hello, which is weird because it's not the lady's birthday, and even if it was, I'm not supposed to know that. So I ruin everything as per usual. Growlithe's ability to track scent is unmatched, and it will never forget any smell, for better or worse. In fact, there have even been some unfortunate recorded cases of Growlithe PTSD after experiencing the natural musk of creatures like Gloom. But due to their sniffy capabilities, Growlithe are often chosen as companion Pokemon for law enforcement seen in the world of Pokemon, which basically means Officer Jennies. In fact, it's very rare to see a Jenny without a growly boy, and they are usually given to the Jennies as puppies, who then proceed to shower it with plenty of love, attention, and nitty-gritty crime fighting, or at least as nitty-gritty as Pokemon gets, which I think is petty theft. But unfortunately, no amount of criminal capturement will be enough to evolve your Growlithe. Instead, you will need a rock, a special rock that is, called a Firestone. And as soon as your puppy boy comes into contact with this mythical existence, it will immediately evolve into a significantly larger doggo, being the glorious Arcanine. Still a quadruped, Arcanine's general body colors stay the same. It does, however, have sharp teeth seen hanging from its upper jaw, as well as beige fur on its head, chest, and chest. Looks like we've written the word chest twice in the script. Well, I'm not re-recording it. Arcanine's tail becomes floofier, large, and beige with a slight bend in the middle. Furthermore, its paw pads go from beige to light pink, which is delightful. Arcanine's English name is incredibly straightforward, being a combination of arcane, which means mysterious or understood by few, and canine. It is an arcane canine, which sounds amazing. Its Japanese, however, is a bit confusing to us uncultured Westerners, but it makes total sense when you actually use your brain, which I know is something that you customers don't often like to do, because it's always like, hey, Team PokeMart manager, do you have this Charmander in blue? And I just have to stand there screaming internally and say, no, idiot customer, it only comes in orange. It is a Charmander, and even if it was shiny, it would just be a lighter shade of orange. Oh, well, how about purple? And I swear, people lose about 30 IQ points as soon as they walk into the store. I have met Bidoofs with more sense than 70% of my customers, and despite being referred to as a normal type, we all know that Bidoofs are a little bit special. But I digress. Arcanine's Japanese name is Windier, which is likely referring to one of its defining natures, which is to be as fast as the wind, which can be quite slow actually. Wind is not always fast, but this is further emphasized by its one signature move, extreme speed. Similarly to Growlithe, Arcanine's origin is based on another Japanese brand of Shisa, this time being the Koma Inu, which are mythical creatures which were inspired by dogs, lions, and this time we're even adding tigers into the mix because sure, why not? Who cares about the natural order of the world anyway? Let's just mix all the creatures. Whilst unflinchingly heroic and faithful, Arcanine are also refined. Capable of running 6,200 miles or 10,000 kilometers in 24 hours, it does so with such elegance and momentum that it is almost reminiscent of flight. Some even say that this nature is due to the fiery blaze that swells deep within its body. So some pretty majestic words there to describe this canine king. Words that become pretty heavily backed up, mind you, because if an Arcanine is to, for whatever reason, bark, it results in people, like human people, immediately falling to their knees and groveling before it like the peasant dog customers they are. That's right, in this new Arcanine run world, you will be the dogs and the dogs will be the yous, and you're just gonna have to get used to it. Sadly, Arcanine are very rare to find in the wild due to a magic stone being necessary to facilitate their very existence, but it does happen on the odd occasion. Now, while we here at Team PokeMart mostly discuss what is known in the world of Pokemon because that is what is relevant to me extracting your currency, we also like to keep ourselves up to date with history. And Growlithe happens to be one of the very rare Pokemon to have displayed an evolution in a Darwinian sense, as it was discovered by vaguely defined researchers to have once had a pre-evolution named Pooty. Said to be another pure fire type, Pooty would have evolved into Growlithe at level 13, and it would have been considered one of the Babby Pokemon planned for Gold and Silver's release. And though we can't say for certain, it was likely removed from the game because there were far too many baby Pokemon planned for this second generation, in which a whopping 17 baby Pokemon were eventually narrowed down to just 7, which is a shame because Pooty has some adorably floppy ears. Who's a good Pooty? Who's a good Pooty? It's you, obviously, even though you don't exist. Now, the Growlithe line, as with dogs in the real world, are quite popular, and as such, there are a fair few different people and groups that choose to wield these mighty mutts. First off, James of Jesse and James fame once had a pet Growlithe, which he lovingly and uncreatively named Growlithe. But due to a home life that James disagreed with, he would come to run away, eventually embracing a life of cross-dressing and general mediocrity. And sadly, this meant that James left Growlithe behind. James did note that Growlithe was his only friend and the two were totally inseparable whilst growing up. Having to put up with his parents' whims, James would often confide in Growlithe, who comforted him in his time of need. And James would eventually return in the anime episode Holy Matrimony, where he feared that his parents had passed away. However, this was but a clever ruse concocted for him to marry Jezebel. Quite the bind he was put into, eh? Talk about constricting. Just a bit of grass humor for you there, because Jezebel uses like a Vileplume like thing, and even though Vileplume can't learn either of those moves itself, it's still very learnable by grass in general. But it was here that Growlithe and James were united after so many long years, although their reunion was short-lived, as James once again made the decision to give up on his inheritance and live the hard life with Jessie and Meowth. He then told Growlithe to stay at the estate and watch over his parents, and understanding, Growlithe somberly agreed, because Growlithes are such good boys. Meanwhile, Gary, Blue, I don't know, whatever you want to call him, he happens to have an Arcanine as one of his signature Pokemon within the first generation. In the anime, Gary uses his Arcanine to battle Giovanni, and although his big dog was able to beat a big crab, it would go on to be defeated by the completely OP Mewtwo. Arcanine is one of Gary's strongest Pokemon though, tough enough to beat an opponent that had a type advantage in a mere 3 blows. Extremely faithful and competent to Gary's command, his Arcanine is a force to be reckoned with. Although once Gary decided in Johto to become a Pokemon researcher, he left Arcanine along with most of his Pokemon with Professor Oak to enjoy a life of mild luxury. Now, his game incarnation Blue, depending on your selected starter, could have an Arcanine in his party in the first generation games. And furthermore, as a leader in the second generation, when a trainer visits Kanto from Johto, Blue appears to have kept his Arcanine with him if you choose to battle him in Viridian City. Some more fun facts about the Growlithe line. Growlithe in the beta version of Pokemon Red and Blue had the name Flamey, and Arcanine had the name Blaze, which is interesting because I already thought that the names Growlithe and Arcanine were pretty straightforward, but no, as it turns out there was indeed a lazier option. Arcanine is listed as the legendary Pokemon, though it is not a proper quote-unquote official legendary Pokemon. Although it is interesting to note that in the anime, Arcanine is shown alongside Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno in an engraving, so perhaps it was once considered to be a legendary. That is until mankind discovered the ability to force a special rock down Growlithe's throat and replicate its legendary properties. And you know, I really am just waiting for the day when someone finally tries to use a Thunderstone on like a Pidgey and then ends up with a Zapdos. Growlithe is considered by some to be a parallel to the Vulpix line, and this is in regards to exclusivity to specific games, a perfectly reversed male-female gender ratio, they both evolve via a Firestone, and they are both based on Japanese mythological creatures, in this case being a Shisa and Kitsune respectively. And finally, a truly useless fact, did you know that many of Arcanine's Pokedex entries actually refer to the real world, quite specifically China? And it's interesting to note that in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, China was removed from its entry, and instead it was called the East. So as it turns out, Pokemon are indeed real, and by Pokemon, I mean pandas. Alright, valued customers, that's everything you need to know about the Growlithe line. Be sure to buy 1 or 2 or 10, with an ample amount of food and a selection of Firestones for when you feel ready to evolve your fleet of Mega Fire Dogs. But please do make sure to stop by Team PokeMart just to say hi, which you can do in the comments below. And if you're interested in some of our other merchandise, then please do click these tantalizing links over here. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for regular updates on our new stock. But for now, this has been Team PokeMart, and I'll see you next time.